This was a choice. It was a choice to spend resources in this way. It is time for our city council and the employees to center the people when making these kinds of decisions on how tax dollars are spent. A few meetings ago, I was asking we be conscious of whose spending cuts would hurt and how they would be hurt. But I guess I should have mentioned that we need to do the same for how we're choosing to spend the money as well. Let's not spend money on hurting the community, please. And just an FYI for everyone listening, the first City of Champaign Community Police listening session is meeting over Zoom this Thursday at 6 p.m. And I look forward to attending and listening. Thank you.
I'm going to mute Brian Dunn and turn on the microphone for Alan Axelrod. Please state your name and your city of residence.
Alan Axelrod, City of Urbana. And I wanted to, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. So I wanted to provide an update as I've been coming here for the last almost 2 months probably, talking about utility shutoffs. There was a major concession, our fourth major concession from the state government today. And I want to talk about what it does and what it doesn't do and why there's still action needed, unfortunately. So let's start with what it does do. The Illinois Commerce Commission announced that yesterday they had made an agreement that effectively for Illinois American Water and Ameren, Illinois, says that if you are eligible for LIHEAP, you will not have your utility service disconnected through March of 2021. This was a hard-fought concession. Illinois American Water themselves sent out an email saying that they intended to shut off utilities in September. They intended to, in their own words, resume normal policy. Ameren, Illinois tweeted on July 12th that on August 11th they would disconnect power. Then they sent a disconnect notice, or then they announced that that date would then be September 1st after we had gotten a utility extension. Then they next announced that that date would be September 11th when we got the second extension, excuse me, mixing my words here. Then we had to stop them from attempting utility shutoffs on September 11th of all days. And then they actually did shut off somebody's utilities, or at least someone served by them lost access to their utilities, and it wasn't counted as any sort of power outage. So the main thing here is that they are a bad faith actor. This was something that was won by the No Ameren Shutoffs campaign, which is a 35 organization statewide $0 all volunteer effort, with the vast majority of the groups being in Central Illinois. There was only one organization in Carbondale and only one organization in Chicago. This was Central Illinois that fought this. That was Central Illinois that won this. So let's talk about what it doesn't do and why that's a problem. There are a lot of people who had their comfortable jobs significantly disrupted as a result of this pandemic. They may not be eligible for LIHEAP. They could still be facing utility shutoffs. Decatur is a neighboring town that has the municipal water service that has still been disconnecting people, even for balances overdue as little as $28. But because they voted against having a cannabis dispensary in their town, their folks come over to Champaign and Urbana and Bloomington and Springfield to get cannabis, which means that if their city becomes less safe, so does ours. The third thing that it doesn't do that is super important here is it does not reinstate disconnected services. So while Ameren, Illinois may have been going on a disconnect binge between September 11th and today, none of those people will have their services restored. None of those people who have had their water services disconnected will have that restored. That is why we have to tell the governor that this is not enough. This still puts tens of thousands, if not over 100,000 households at risk. There are 12,000 in Springfield alone that are at risk, as reported by WGLT and the local news outlet there, I forget their name. The last thing that I wanted to say was to pivot, because today's events is the second time that I've heard at-will employees of one Tom Spear being involved in an event where staff time was used to harass the homeless and services provided to the homeless. In fact, last year, they even stabbed the homeless in the back when people were asking for porta potties and chairs were taken away from them instead. That was on video. Tom Spear was present. Tom Spear's signature was on the notice. And so now I'm hearing that Tom Spear was there again over a food pantry, trying to pursue through a technicality what seems to be revenge. So I know you're in a budget crisis, so let me just suggest that maybe there might be a staff reduction or payroll reduction or some sort of discipline in mind to highlight that this misuse of municipal funds is wholly inappropriate in a pandemic. Why isn't Tom Spear, for example, or any other municipal representatives advocating against utility shutoffs like we've been doing for the past 2 months, or advocating for anything that would increase public safety? How does this increase public safety? Thank you. Have a good night.
I'm going to turn on the microphone for the phone number ending in 635.
Tom,
Hello?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
yes. Please state your name,
Yeah.
city of residence.
Yeah, my name is Kevin Kleinwalter. I live in a community that Mr. Patel was talking about, and I think it's a really good idea what he's, proposing. Because, as of right now, it's just like an open field. It's nothing. And what he's, saying will help around here. And, I just, like I said, I just feel it's a really good idea. And that's pretty much all I got to say.
I'm going to turn the microphone on for Rita Connerly. Please state your name and your city of residence.
Microphone's not on, Tom.
Yeah. Rita Connerly, please state your name and city of residence.
Yes, sir. My apologies. My name is Rita Connerly. I reside in Champaign. I live in District 1. Clarissa Fourman is my council rep. Thank you so much for your service and representing District 1 in the way which you do. However, today I come before you very disappointed, angered, and ashamed that the city has clearly displayed their lack of concern for our most vulnerable population by attempting to remove a food pantry from downtown in the middle of a food desert during a pandemic. I've had many discussions with staff, and in an email from Carrie Wyman on August 11th, Carrie stated, while we should make an agreement with private property owners to maintenance pop-up pantries, she also stated the city's position is to ensure that it doesn't create a nuisance. What Carrie also noted was that for public spaces, the city does not have a program at this time. Now is the time to create such programs. Instead of removing a much needed resource, how about the city consider collaborating with pantry creators to create solutions and join the community's efforts in giving back, helping others, and showing what community looks like through acts of love? That's what this specific pantry has been a representation of. This resource has been open since the ending of July to whomever is in need, offering non-perishable food items, fresh produce, and toiletries. No questions, no embarrassment. I'm curious and have many questions. Who are those that have complained about free food? Because per Tim Spears, many anonymous complaints have come in. Why would you take food from the most vulnerable population of people? Did you consult with any of the Black staff before this decision? Because I'm sure they would have made suggestions or offered solutions versus removal. Is this really a top priority action item that needs to be dealt with in the middle of a crisis? Food insecurity is a big concern, a public health crisis, and an issue that, with our city support, could be managed so that no person, despite their circumstances, can have food to eat. On another note, what about an investigation of the red truck that used his vehicle to assault protesters more than 8 weeks ago? I'm wondering if the investigation into Dustin Heiser on July 25th have been dropped. Will he be charged or not? If not, will the city and or the Champaign Police Department be releasing a statement to clarify if it's legal for anyone else in Champaign to act similarly? I'm concerned that you guys are going to just drop all charges because you'll look at it as time has passed and it just means nothing. I really wish you guys would consider what's priority here in Champaign. There are several pantries throughout Champaign. I'm sure you guys are aware of where those are located. I'm in fear of advising where those are located because you might go and put a notice to abate on those as well. These food pantries are being utilized. I spoke to one man specifically while there. His name was Bruce. Bruce stated that he comes to the pantry every day. He also stated that with our own eyes, we can see the people who are coming there. Today, in a matter of 45 minutes, I witnessed 3 people come to take items from the food pantry. Also within that time, since we were required to move it, people came to an empty spot where the pantry once sat, confused, looking for the pantry. I'm very angry that this is the way that the city is choosing to respond and use our tax dollars. I thank Clarissa Fourman for standing up and speaking out against the city with us as you see that this is a resource that is needed in our community. Shame on you guys. Have a good night.
I'm going to open up the microphone for Amy Hatch.
Hi, Amy Hatch of Champaign. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all for your time tonight. Last month, I attended the meeting so that I could express my concerns about the man, Rita mentioned his name, who intentionally ran his truck into the group of pedestrians outside the Rogue Barber Company. This was on July 25th. More specifically, my concern at that time was not seeing our police take any action at all against the man, nor any mention of the crime in local media, mainstream media anyway. And as we all know by now, he's a white man and the pedestrians were predominantly Black protesters. And this occurred at a time when several similar incidents of vehicular assault or hate crimes on Black protesters occurred across our country. Many Champaign citizens have now seen the multiple videos taken of his crime and also heard or read many eyewitness and victim accounts. We are all also painfully aware that it's been over 8 weeks now, 2 months already, and yet this crime is allegedly and rather astonishingly still under investigation. I guess we hope it still is. I find that deeply disturbing when I know the officers were provided his photos of the truck, his plates, either the evening of the assault or soon after. They even spoke to the man that evening. Simply acting as a citizen sleuth, I've already been able to obtain his name, his residence, online comments made by him, his political party affiliation, his occupation history, all using a computer and making a few calls. All of us know this. If I investigated further, I wonder if I'd find out it's an unusually long time for our police to be investigating this type of crime. Unprecedented things keep happening in my community lately, like citizens getting unprecedented high bails for their charged crimes after some looting occurred this year. Not in favor of the looting, but are we biased in who we police and how we police in our community and how we punish crimes? I'm beginning to ask myself these questions a lot. Lack of action on our police's part is exactly what led me to go out and meet the protesters who were assaulted. This is why I'm more involved now. I'm learning more about local protests and also about local policing. I'm a lifelong resident, a multi-generational resident, and I love my community very much. So I'd like to say I'm happy with what I'm learning about our policing, our city, and about how certain groups are held or not held accountable. Yet I so far cannot exactly. I'm still trying though. So are other residents. I'm just maybe more outspoken than they are so far. I'm also quite alarmed by reports that our police asked the assaulting driver that evening if he wanted to press charges. What for? He was the one assaulting people. Peaceful protest is a constitutional right. Even if it weren't, it's not legal to drive into pedestrian crowds. And why would he get asked that without at least 8 weeks of investigation first? Why weren't our cops taking victim statements and investigating from the moment they were on the scene? He was in a large pickup truck versus pedestrians on foot. A glaringly unlawful incident, I believe. And by all witness accounts I can find in several videos, he could have easily driven the other direction or instead of through the group of protesters. He was under no threat, never in imminent danger, and the protesters were put in unnecessary danger though. Thankfully, no one was seriously physically harmed, and yet that doesn't negate the crime. It's still a harmful event to the victims and to our community, I believe. If he claims he was scared while locked safely in his truck and after making threatening gestures to the protesters before getting into his truck, he had the easy option of calling his cops, many of whom are his friends, I discovered on social media. The police department's only a few blocks away from the scene of his crime. He was clearly not fleeing for safety from a violent mob. The bottom line is that there is strong evidence he committed a crime, possibly a hate crime, and I expect to see him held accountable under the laws we all live by. The city has moved very quickly to hold protesters accountable for some harmless graffiti with mostly chalk, and recently managed to abate the free food pantry serving the underserved in our community, all in less than 8 weeks. Now I'm requesting on behalf of myself and probably other tax-paying citizens that the driver be held accountable for the much worse action of putting actual lives at risk, because Black lives do indeed matter. They are included in all lives, right? And lives are more important than property, right? It's not a political movement. This is a just cause, human rights, racial justice, equality. Constitutional rights need to be upheld. I would like to see us show the rest of the country that our community is racially just and fair, that we at least want it to be, and we are trying to progress if it's not. Let's walk all our talk. If he's not held accountable, I also worry we'll see other whites like him emboldened to commit more vehicular assaults. None of us want that, I hope. I'm guessing other local tax-paying citizens might not relish any more than I do if the city causes us to be sued by the victims. None of us want to be paying more lawsuit fees and settlements for any more bad or inappropriate policing. I'm certain you all understand that holding the white man accountable for an assault on predominantly Black protesters, excuse me, rather not holding him accountable, it smells like the very thing that the protests are about. If, you know.
Ms. Hatch, you are 30 seconds over, so you need to wrap it up, please.
Okay, I just, I love my community. I really do. I want to see us do it better. I just find it uncomfortable. Our leadership and those sworn to serve and protect all of our citizens are not more concerned about this crime. Going forward, I hope to see better from you, from myself, from my community, our police, all of us. I want my community to be inclusive, not behaving in any racist manner. Wrong is wrong. Accountability and transparency are important for us, I think, especially right now in this challenging time. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time this evening.
I'm going to turn on the microphone for the phone number ending in 220.
Hi, my name is Hello?
Hello, state your name and your city of residence.
Hi, my name is Marshall Alston-Diego. I currently live in Urbana, but I was born and raised in Champaign. I wanted to, again, just touch back on the food pantry. I actually built that to meet specifically with ordinances. It's good. I know that the ordinance it was concerned about was the city right of way, but it sits in front of a vacant lot. There's an alley right there for you to pull the fire truck in. There's not really like an emergency. I wonder if there's not some way that you all could make leniencies for a series of these events instead of I don't do it a lot. Yeah, that's all. I just wish that the city had directly reached out to us before wasting energy to be ready to move something aggressively, and also waste the resources within it and the resources that were put into building it, and the time and the love. Thank you for your time.
I'm going to turn the microphone on for Drake.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, state your name and your city of residence, please.
My name is Drake Bethia. I'm from Chicago, but I am a student living in Champaign-Urbana, and I call as a concerned student and as a concerned Black man. Is this what we're doing now, Champaign? Is this what we're doing? Are we really removing pantries? Are we stopping people from donating and feeding the people? Exposing the contradictions because you all have not done that? Is that what we're doing now? It is a shame. It is a shame that protesters were the ones that were put in harm's way. But you all are threatened by chalk and now by food. I am concerned that the leadership here is not fit for leadership if they are concerned over chalk and now over food. Especially because food is a human right. And it's a shame that you all are not able to take accountability for your lack of ability to actually feed the people. But the community is going to feed the people. We have fed the people. I was out there today when you all tried to remove it. I was after when you guys were gone, when everything was back to being good. Once the city left the pantry alone and we moved it, there were people, individuals, literally by child. If you are threatened by pain, if you are threatened by non-violent disobedience, if you are threatened by food, I hope that you all look in and understand about, because you allow yourself to be pimped by whoever got the money to put it to the system. You're upset because you don't know how to give to the people. You're so focused on your chair. You're only focused on your seat. You're only focused on the bills and how much money you get from the job, and you don't have any civic engagement. You don't do anything in the community for real except remove pantries and complain about what we're doing with chalk or really trying to feed the people. And where are the people that went to the Back to Blue rally too? They didn't come out and create a pantry. They have not done or fed the people. They spend money on billboards. They spend money on their fragility. They spend money on having beards. That's what they put money towards. And we're putting money in power and community work toward the community, from the community. I know I say a lot. I'm not that threatening, not threatening at all. But you all can get involved and sit down with Marshall, sit down with Hidden Homeboy, sit down with Justin, and let's really talk about how the city can help build the pantry, since the pantry is doing the job that you are supposed to do. But in reality, as we have seen, you fall back on the contradiction. You fall back on capitalism. You fall back on racism. And you fall back on silence. Silence is violence. But you know what else is violence? Poverty is violence. Stealing food from people is violence. That is true violence that needs to be ended. Marshall was trying to end that, still trying to end it, and we're backing him. My question to Champaign City Council is, who will you be backing? Will you be backing those who spend money on billboards, who attend on people who sit on these councils and go and attend the KKK class, the Klan rally? Or will you back young Black brothers and sisters? Will you back a young brother who's trying to feed people? You should be trying to get on board with what he's doing, not destroying. again, look at yourselves, look at the contradictions, expose them, realize them. And the back to blue, y'all should come out and donate to the pantry.
Sir, you're 30 seconds over, so you need to wrap it up, please.
I end with this. Food, giving food to the people is no race issue. The only people making it a real race issue are the back to blue people and the people that aren't willing to operate and give to the people. So if you're threatened by food, that says something more about where you stand. Thank you.
I'm going to turn the microphone on for Sophia.
Hi, my name is, can you guys hear me? Oh, I think
Yes.
so. My name is Sophia. I'm a resident of Champaign County, and I'm also a student at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I am also a senator for both the student government and the UC Senate, and I'm also on the Senate Executive Committee. And I was very distraught on my morning walk today when I saw when I encountered the food pantry in downtown Champaign and was told that the Champaign Police Department had threatened to move it. And I am coming here as a voice of concern, as a community resident and as a student of this school, that the Champaign County is not providing the resources that the community needs during these times, especially in a pandemic. And I'm currently actually at Walmart trying to purchase things to donate to this pantry when I really shouldn't be there doing this. Like, I'm a student, and it should be the state, the city, whatever, like elected representative officials doing this and providing for the community, and not community providing for itself. Like the state and city council, like you guys are community owned or led, I don't know what you would call it, like community led campaigns to help the community and community led projects to help the community. And we're going to strip them from that and then not even provide those same resources that we're going to strip them away from. So, anyways, what I'm here to say is that I am very, very disappointed with what I've encountered today. And I really hope that everybody here is listening and that we can provide better resources and that we can take action from this and be donating to the less privileged during these times. And if not, then I hope that the University of Illinois and the student body can also take action in pushing Champaign County to take this action if they do not cater to the community. That is really all I have to say. I hope everyone has a good night, and I really hope that we can put the people first for once, so that this does not have to happen again. Thank you.
I'm going to open the microphone for Phil Fasella.
Thank you, Tom. Phil Fasella, Champaign. I am sorry to hear that happened with the pantry, and I guess I'd like to throw it out there to anybody involved on either side of this. I'd always, there are a lot of people with private property downtown. I hope that, before things got to this point, maybe somebody looked at ways to relocate the pantry off of the city right of way. Obviously, downtown is a residential area. There's people that live in the condos up there. For a temporary thing, it was okay. But if it was around for a while, I could see that being something that would be frustrating for the neighbors. So, I understand why it happened. And there's also a right of way permit process. In construction, if you get a dumpster, do anything on the right of way, you have to file a permit. But I think, it'd be really cool if somebody with some property in the area, I know the Episcopal Church hands out food and does all kinds of things for the homeless. We really have a wonderful community that I think really cares about these issues, and it'd be good if this pantry could have found a home. I don't know the full story of how this went down, but hopefully there's some resolution to this. I mean, I think you know, to some degree, city employees have to be neutral, and I hope they were just doing their jobs, but it'd be really cool if, you know, if there was a way the community could come in and adopt this thing and get it off the street, so to speak. So hopefully this isn't the last we hear of it.
I'm going to turn the microphone on for Justin Michael Hendricks.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Greetings. Greetings. My name is Justin Michael Hendricks. I'm a Parkland College student and state advocate, also Champaign resident. Before I start, if this ain't for you, you will know, because as I continue to speak, you'll breathe easy. I am pissed to know that after I gave a week off to ensure civic engagement, or even you to choose Deb and others to back the Blue Smurfs, Clues, Cheese, and Beard groups on this last Saturday. Julia Pride, CDC, and PhD, you should actually find the mayors of both Champaign and Urbana, along with Back the Blue leaders, speakers, and those who have attended those for not wearing masks on multiple occasions while hosting protests in favor of police and white men over Black and brown bodies. If the CDC can find head coaches of football teams on national levels, they should also find you all on local levels. Let's get it done. Send them fines now. I said what I said, and it should be done, period. I'm at y'all. Moving forward, Carrie and Tim, I'm about to bring hell on earth for what y'all try to do today. How dare you place a sign on my organization's pantry after working hours on a Friday evening when no one was frequenting the area to threaten to remove the pantry today at 9 o'clock. A pantry that has been there since July, providing for all lives, as you suggest that matter. I arrived at 9 o'clock, matter of fact, 9:02, with 3 damn trucks and 4 odd-looking white men, including Tim with the latch down, to physically remove the pantry and keep it. I informed them not to touch my pantry and place all members' belongings back, as they should, because he worked hard to earn the funds for it to feed the community, as you all should do and do so, knowing if you can approve ice rinks and $74,000 payouts, then why won't you approve this pantry? I'm still not understanding. Back the Blue, y'all should address that in Facebook groups as well. I sent y'all the articles. Share that information. Also, prep your people. First person's in the last and one. Now back to the subject at hand. Let's not do the reindeer games, as I'm not one here for season greetings and winter's not here yet. You all know how to contact me, as it's not easy for both Champaign and Urbana councils, also police and U of I. You all have my number. It's not that hard to reach me. Y'all tried it and I'm pissed off, seriously. Are y'all going to know it in person? Trust me, when these damn restrictions let up, I will be there. How dare y'all stop the community in building a bridge for the community during a pandemic and a food desert when the damn school districts don't have enough to feed families? We all know the U of I is too closed off and coined out to give their food out the dining halls and produce centers. We need those too. Mind you, while they tried to move it, a woman clearly asked why were they moving it, because she donated the night prior. And also, 2 people came by to grab items while your white friends and workers try to move my shit. Y'all really are trying my patience with this petty ass game, and I'm over it. Y'all picking, I'm about to pick back.
Mr. Hendricks,
I am so
you
disturbed.
need to refrain from cussing, please.
Stop. I am so disturbed. You haven't even charged Dustin Heiser in his red truck who drove through a crowd of protesters, and I'm not done. Trust me, I'm not done. Oh, and I want all the complaints that Tim said the city receives. I'm going to FOIA the hell out of everything pertaining to Hidden Homeboy in this food pantry. Also, you thought it was a war? No, I ain't done yet. We have more food pantries to come. Also, clothing closets too for the community. Thank you to the CBA and also other business associations downtown that allowed us to place our food pantry in a new area. You can donate to Hidden Homeboy, where we're restocking it this week, Thursday. Champaign-Urbana, Council, Policeman, University, Back the Blue, open your purses and chaps instead of mouths, because I'm done listening to y'all, and in time, y'all can start meeting me in the streets. I'm the people's mayor, and I demand we meet. I have time, and I have hands for my city and my community, and I don't have time for y'all unless y'all meet me in the streets. In closing, let's pray for the killers to be charged for the murder of Breonna Taylor. Thank you and good night.
The people's mayor.
The people's mayor. Bye.
I'm going to turn the microphone on for Chelsea.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Birchmeyer, and I'm a resident of Champaign. I just wanted to speak really briefly along with the other commentators to support the presence of the community food pantry. I think the city of Champaign should really be focusing on how you can be reallocating funding from police to resources like food, jobs, mental health resources, and other essential resources in neighborhoods in Champaign that have been divested from historically. So I really think focusing on trying to remove something that's beneficial to the Champaign community, like food, is really shameful, and that, you know, the city's resources should really be focused on how can we bring more food pantries to the community? How can we bring more jobs? How can we bring more mental health resources? And really listening to the comments of people throughout the summer who have been calling for defunding the police and reallocating funding to these resources. Thank you.
That's all there was tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Before we go to council comment, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that tonight is our last night that Assistant City Manager Christopher Walton is with us. As we all know, he is going on to be the administrator at the Village of Savoy, and we want to wish him good luck, and we're excited to be able to work with him in that capacity. I mention it now rather than at my turn for comment, because as council members talk, they may want to just take a moment to thank Christopher for his service, and I wanted to take that opportunity myself. So thank you, Christopher. And I don't know if your video is available, but we'd love to see your smiling face one last time. I don't see him. So I will go ahead, and is there any council comment? Councilmember Fourman.
So my only concern is that last week, you all can see me, I can see you. I talked to you guys about reactionary behavior. And again, this week we have something that is reactionary. When the city staff decided that they needed to move the pantry, I'm not sure why communicating with the group about working with somebody in private wouldn't be the thing to do. Why is everything that we do so agitative? And I don't understand that. And I know that we don't, everything doesn't have to turn into a knockdown, drag out fight. And I don't understand why council members are so comfortable with it being like this, and why it's constantly kind of a thing. And not all of you, because I speak to most of you and you all do call back and talk to me, and you guys really do engage with what's going on. But generally the feeling on public council meetings though, there's no word. And I don't understand. And I know that some of you can't be okay with what happened. So I don't understand what the issue is with the pantry. I disagree that the pantry is hurting people. And I'm more concerned that my district is heavily unequally property inspected. I don't understand that. And I know Councilmember Stock agrees with me, because he's talked to me about the constant over property inspection in District 1. So when are we it shouldn't take me asking 4 council members to make the city manager do something. It takes me 4 city council members to make 5 before I can make an action happen. But I can't get 4 of you to back me up to do something. Stuff like this has to stop happening. Everything doesn't have to turn into a protest and everybody fighting. This is something that simply could have been talked about and done. And someone did tell them where to move the pantry, and they moved the pantry. But that only happened after a live video and after all and it wasn't necessary. And I even contacted the city manager to tell her that it wasn't necessary, and I was told to mind my business. So I'm not really sure what else to do when I'm trying to help not make things be a big deal. There's a food desert in this area. Hickory Street is 1 block from this area, period. It does not matter what we say, who lives in downtown. This area literally circles the largest food desert in Champaign, the only food desert in Champaign. So I do not understand, when the time center is down the street, why that's an issue. And you guys can throw ordinances at me and tell me why it's okay. I want to ask, the human nature part of it is, why are we okay with taking food away from people? Why? We have food boxes that are being left at the Boys and Girls Club and left at churches that are not being utilized, that can be picked up and used. And I don't understand why everybody doesn't have the same kind of like common ground of wanting stuff to be better for people. And I don't understand why to you guys that looks like tyranny, or somebody's trying to make a big deal. Everything doesn't have to be dramatics. And I want to understand that from y'all. I'm literally genuinely asking you, and I know you're not going to respond, but I'm asking because I don't think stuff like this has to happen. And I think that when we have a chance to do something good in the community, we can. And I'm very disappointed that this happened. I'm very disappointed that I have to go to council members in public to ask for help, because I'm being told to mind my business by the city manager. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of talking about it. You guys know it's a problem. We all ignore it that it's a problem, and I'm tired of y'all ignoring it. I'm tired of this being an issue. 4 of y'all need to back me up, and we need to do something about what's going on. And I want it to be done, and I want it to be done publicly. And you all have talked to me individually, so you know there are issues. And I'm tired of us having a conversation when we know that there's something we need to do. This cannot continue to happen. Okay, we have to be proactive. We do not need to wait until someone is shot in a parking lot before we do something. We do not need to wait until someone is paralyzed in a parking lot before we do something. There is ways to be proactive, and we can do that. You guys are very engaged people. All of you guys know what's going on. I talk to you guys sometimes, y'all know stuff before I do. So you guys know what's going on. So I don't understand. And most of you do engage with me. So this is not for the people who do engage with me. It's for the people who don't, because I want to understand. Because I know you guys think, oh, I don't know why Clarissa does that, or why does she do this? And I want to understand why you guys think that what I'm doing isn't helpful, or, what could I do to make it better? Because I just want stuff to be better and equal for everybody. Just like I fought for Clark Park and it wasn't in my district, I want to fight for other things, and you guys do it too. And so I don't understand. And it's not really like a criticism. It's more so I'm really asking you guys, because I was very frustrated when I was told to mind my business. And it takes me 4 council members before I can actually get some kind of action. And I know there's several of you who've had the same kind of situation. So it's reality. And I just want to understand. And I apologize to everybody who had an issue with the food pantry. I apologize if that happened. I'm sorry that I was not able to intercede and help. And I hope that wherever you guys locate the pantries, they are. And I do ask that nobody tell where the pantries are located, because I don't want them to be shut down, because they are being used. They're being used all over our community. And it's hard that people don't see that it's helping people. And I guess that's sad that some of us live a life where we don't understand that some people do starve and some people do sleep on the street. And that's all I'm asking. That's it. Not a criticism. This is me speaking to y'all in public without violating the Open Meetings Act to talk to you. So that's all I want to say. And I really want to take a minute. Christopher Walton, you are a bad dude, okay? Like, you have a smile and a personality that as soon as you walked in the room and you started working with us, it was amazing. All of your ideas, the things that you bring forward are great. I am sorry to see you leave, but I'm happy for you, because I know you're going to do great things at Savoy. And I'm starting to, maybe Savoy going to be up there on, start being up there at the table sometimes now that you're going to be over there in charge. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I also found out something really interesting about Savoy. So I'd like to throw that out there, that the CFO at Savoy is actually an African-American man. And I did not know that until I started looking into stuff about Savoy. So Savoy is a little bit more ahead of the curve than I thought they were. And Christopher, I'm so excited that you're going to be a colleague of everybody's, and that we get to see some work that you do. And I'm sorry that we didn't get to see you tonight, but I hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Councilmember Stock.
I'm muting. Real quickly, before I move on to any comments, Carrie, can you talk to us about what happened and why at the food pantry? Because I certainly have concerns. I understand where speakers are coming from, but I also feel like maybe I don't have the full picture. So if you could kind of enlighten us a little bit enlighten the community really about that, that would be great.
Sure. Thank you, Councilmember Stock. We did talk to the community group. I was involved in a meeting, it was, I believe, late July, who asked for some information, the things that were happening downtown. One of those items was the food pantry. I also, as Ms. Connerly referenced, there was an email interchange between her and I in the middle of August, stating that we don't have a program per se at this time for a food pantry that would be on city property or the city right of way, but I did encourage her to work with the private property owner. They could come to an agreement. Our enforcement, it was in compliance. We were then made aware that it was, again, out of compliance. It had been moved back onto the city right of way, which we had already addressed with the group previously. That's why the letter was, the notice was placed on the box, allowing for 72 hours for the item to be removed. The intent then was, if it wasn't removed by 9 a.m. today, then we would be removing it. I think some of the confusion that came in today was that the letter also that was posted on the box that they acknowledged, the letter talked about after the box would be abated and all the materials, they would have 5 days to claim them. They would be off-site. They were not to stay there, but they would have 5 days to claim them. After that, then those items would be discarded. So that's how we landed where we are today. Once the staff approached, Neighborhood Services and Public Works were there to remove it. That's when Ms. Connerly and Mr. Hendricks showed up, asked for us not to remove it, said that they would do so by the end of today, which was longer than our period. That seemed reasonable, and they actually did have it removed within, I think, less than 2 hours. It's my understanding that it is now on private property. So for us, the case is considered closed.
So Carrie, can you talk a little bit more about, you probably said it and I just missed it. Can you talk a little bit more about timeline as to when they were told that it needed to be moved, and then to, obviously this morning was D-Day, but at what point were they actually informed of that?
I've talked to Ms. Connerly and an email and on the phone late July, middle of August. This is when it was originally on the south side of Washington. Then it was moved and in compliance, if you will, to the north side of Washington. I don't know the exact dates of that, but around that time period, it was in compliance. It was actually on private property. In the last week and a half, we've noticed that it had moved in back onto the city's right of way. Observed that it was remaining there. It wasn't accidental. It didn't appear. And so this past Friday, then a notice went up and said they would have 72 hours. This Tuesday, which was today at 9 a.m.
Okay, sorry, I'm slow because I'm trying to pick up the details. So the notice was just stuck on the food pantry, or was a conversation had with anybody, or was it just taped up on the, I don't know what the food pantry looked like, if it's a box or a table or whatever it is, but
Yes, I believe it was attached to the box itself, because we've had prior conversations and thought we had an understanding of what was allowed and not allowed. We did just tape it to the box, and they've acknowledged that they read it over the weekend.
Okay. And what, most of our property maintenance at this point is pretty much complaint driven, correct?
Correct.
So were there complaints about this, or was this an inspector that saw it, or how did we come upon it?
There had been a complaint in the past, and then this is in the downtown area, so we were aware at the point that it moved back onto the city right of way, because there had been a prior complaint. And then more recently, there's been a general complaint about food, glass on the sidewalk and a lot next to this.
So if I had an inoperable motor vehicle that was in a driveway on one side of the street, and a neighbor complained, 2 months later, I moved that inoperable motor vehicle to a different property across the street, we would just assume that that first one took care of any future inoperable motor vehicles at any address? I don't know if my analogy is good. I'm trying to piece together the communication piece, because I feel like that's where things sort of fell apart, that you have a conversation 2 months ago, and now, well, we talked to you 2 months ago, except it wasn't in that same spot. It moved to a different spot, and we didn't have a complaint about the second spot, if I understood you correctly. So I'm just trying to follow the process, if that makes sense. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I'm just confused as to what exactly we're doing.
When it's the same party and we've had the conversation, but can we do more to reach out? Absolutely. And so I'm taking notes, I'm writing down names in the future. That was the point of the 72 hours. You're not supposed to leave things on the right of way after 4 hours. We did feel like we were being generous by also offering to hold the material in case the food pantry, people that are filling it and stocking it, were not aware. That's why we offered to hold it for an additional 5 days.
So am I also hearing, just to kind of backpedaling a little bit, that part of the issue is our ordinance doesn't allow for anything like this on a right-of-way situation? So is that something that we as a council need to talk about, amending the ordinance? Or I don't know where we are on that, but that may be another conversation to be had.
Correct. At this point, we don't have a mechanism or a tool, if you will, to allow for the way it was approached to me previously by the group was a pop-up pantry or pop-up clothing. And we have had those requests in the past. We don't have a tool, if you will, that we can use that would allow that on city property. On private property, the only concern that I've shared with the group in my prior conversations with them was to make sure that it's not open. You don't have open food, things that might attract, animals or critters or insects if it's on private property, because then it becomes a separate issue. But on the right of way, we don't have a tool to allow it. I did appreciate hearing the gentleman who said he thought he built it, to the ordinance to allow for food storage, but not on the right of way, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Councilmember Gladney.
Thank you. So can anyone tell me what has been prior reasoning for not allowing these if I pop-up food pantries on city right of way? Where did that come from?
I will take that. There may be others on here that wish to speak to it, but the issue becomes when we've had temporary use of city property, we have a licensing agreement. Both parties agree to how the property will be maintained, the liability of that property. That's been my experience on city-owned property when we're doing something that's a temporary use, sometimes for construction purposes. If somebody needs access to city-owned property, construction project, there's an agreement that's put in place. Part of the concern from a neighborhood services perspective is that it's the ongoing maintenance. Best of intentions, things can get started, but that's the long-term relationship. How do we ensure if there is an issue, do we then have to go clean it up because it is on city property? We're not citing anybody else, it's actually our property. We haven't had lots of requests of these over the years, but there have been a few asking for various things that unfortunately at this time we don't have a program.
Thank you for that. So I guess so I'm not saying that there aren't going to be potential issues. Carrie, you were just talking about, what could happen, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't know. I don't like the sound of it when we are doing things like shutting down food pantries, especially during a pandemic. I don't know if how well it speaks to our soul, per se. I was certainly, Councilmember Stock kind of got into this a little bit, but I would certainly be open to at least reviewing our regulations on that and having that discussion, because I don't know. I mean, there are times where I totally get having the rules that we have and why we have them and being kind of cold and clinical. And then there are other times where I look at the rules that we have and their consequences. And as a human being, they don't sit well with me, and I'm uncomfortable with the results that come from that. So I'm just kind of putting it out there. I would be open to having a discussion on reviewing at least that particular rule we have.
Councilmember Pianfetti.
Wanted to start first by wishing Christopher well. I am sorry to see you go, but I do wish you all the best in Savoy, and I know they have gotten a good individual, and I've had a lot of fun getting to know you and to work with you. So wish you all the best. And I also wanted to just say, while I know, what happened wasn't the best of circumstances, food insecurity and working to improve those circumstances has been something that has been both personally and professionally something that I've worked for and with with my family, with my church, with my profession. So it certainly is something that I am well aware of and something that I would always support. But I think this also is an opportunity for conversations with the township, with a lot of community partners, with the mobile market, with a lot of different organizations within the community. I think there's so much energy and so much passion that I was hearing, that I think now is the time that I hope that those connections are being made, and that you know, the gentleman who spoke that built those pantries, I think that there would be a lot of organizations that through partnerships that could really benefit with that expertise. And, you know, I was thinking about the mobile markets, and, you know, if there was some way to partner up, you know, where they were, and if there was private property, or if in part of some sort of conversations be able to leave one of these pantries with some of the foods. I think that there's a lot of opportunities. I think what happened in, you know, the way I look at that, these circumstances, you know, we did have this ordinance. I know it's hard on our souls. I don't think anybody wanted to do what happened. I feel for the city staff that were put in a situation to have to comply with the ordinance. You know, I don't like that they had to do that. I would never have wanted to take food away. So I think we do have to rethink what we are doing and when we are doing things. But I think that there are a lot of opportunities to have these partnerships move forward that are already built in. I think our township has made a lot of connections and have made a lot of headway, and I think we could make a lot of those connections. So I would like to see that as we move forward, not try to recreate the wheel in some ways, but to keep the wheel moving and keep the momentum going with what has already started, and to really kind of partner with the individuals that were speaking this evening that have some really good ideas and the passion behind them. So those are my comments. And again, Christopher, wish you all the best, and hope that there'll be opportunities to collaborate more in the future.
Councilmember Foreman.
I'm sorry, I was messing with my hair. My bad.
Councilmember Kyles.
I too want to congratulate Christopher on the position. Obviously, while with us for a short time, we did get to learn a lot about you, and we know that you're going to do a great job at in Savoy in your new position. Well wishes in that regard. To CC Art, a lot of times I'm quiet because in most cases I'm reflective. And in the past, I've never said I have said the first thing that comes to mind. And oftentimes when I look back, because I'm trying to get something accomplished, I realized that the first thing that came to my mind and I said it didn't necessarily reap the results. And I spent a lot of years trying to recorrect those things, having to go back. And so in this, when you start talking about the issues that you speak on and speak on passionately and purposely, it's important to have people to do that. We don't have to always agree. Just don't. Never have believed that we have to always agree. In fact, I hate that we live in a society where 100% agreement is almost mandatory, because it's just not real. But I have spent a lot of time going back. I've spent a lot of time with great patience And sometimes I did try to push the envelope pretty hard, really, really hard. And it was an old guy. I didn't believe him, actually, to be honest with you. His name's Mr. Purtle. And, you know, a lot of times young folks, as young folks we are, we believe that older folks at times are just so slow. Just like, why don't you just move, right? And then you realize, he said something to me one time. He said, Will, he said, if you ever want to get anything done on council, I never forget this, because when I first came in, there were simple solutions that I thought were just like simply possible. Just like, why can't we get this done? Doesn't make any sense. And he said, from an old man seat, he said, if you ever want to get anything done, it's going to take at least 2 terms. And I was like, man, Mr. Purtle, I listened to him out of respect, right? But I didn't really think that it was going to take 8 years for a citizens review, police review board. But now we have something that, even if we don't agree with it completely, we have something that we can criticize and say, hey, this doesn't work, or this does work. This is not a lesson to you from me in how to get your agenda. It's just a pass, because I don't think your agenda, I think it's our agenda, to be quite frank with you, to see better community police relationships, to see homeless people fed. That's not your agenda, that's our agenda. We are not at war with each other, at least in my book. We're not at war because we have the same agenda, maybe different. To talk about electrical, people's electricity and water being turned off, that we're not at war with each other. We really aren't. We may have different ways of accomplishing things, but as a council, as a staff, we can look at our community, we can look at our council goals, and every goal that you have is the same goal that we have. Now, obviously, the food pantry is a big deal. It's important. I love the innovation. But at the same point in time, I also understand from the standpoint of just plain ordinance. And yes, I know that sometimes people say that's a cop-out. You hid behind the ordinance. I get it. But the reality is, there are ordinances. If I say, hey, you don't have to follow that ordinance because I believe in feeding the homeless, because I really do, then there's going to be somebody that sticks it to me and says on another ordinance, oh, so you believe in choosing ordinances, huh? And that's the political string that you always have to walk as a politician, as an elected official. You're not trying to please everybody. Lord knows I'm not. But I understand if I say, man, it's good for you to have this food pantry out here, no matter how innovative and great that I believe it is, then I also understand that I got to say, hey, man, it's cool to do this, or it's cool to do that. All our ordinances are not perfect. We're still updating stuff since 1985. I get that. And so I just want to say, as God would have it, we are not at war. We really aren't. We're really not at war. If we're at war on the same causes, making a better community, fighting through these challenges, trying to figure out how to get through this thing called COVID-19 and survive, how to take care of our families. When we turn off the council, everybody turns off their Zoom call. Nobody cares at this house if I'm Council Member Kyle's. Call me dad. My wife, she didn't call me council member. She didn't even call me Mr. Kyle. She calls me husband. And so from that standpoint, I transitioned to, how do you think about others to just live in life? And I'm telling you, from this place, it ain't always been easy. It ain't always been easy. And I know for a fact that I've sat here many a time fighting as with other people, going through personal issues that I would never talk about, because it's my duty to serve you. So I used to have a business and it was called At Your Service. We are at your service. And we hope that we can continue to serve together. That is the goal. But as elected officials, as bureaucrats, we do have these things, these ordinances, and while inconvenient they may be, that's why I heard council members say, hey, let's go look at it. Let's go check it out and see what could be done. Is it gonna be perfect? No. But if God would have me say anything, I would tell you, we are not at war. Literally, if we are at war, we're not at war. We're not at war with each other. And the more that we can figure out how to work together in the innovation, the better. I spent a lot of time and I'd say in conclusion, I spent a lot of time, more than you would even know or probably look, fighting angry. Every time I did that, I almost did things, to be honest with you, that you wouldn't even know me as Councilmember Will Kyles. I did that every time I thought that way, it took me to a different space. So, like I said, this isn't preaching to you all. It's just me trying to communicate that we understand what you're going through and want to work together.
Anyone else? Councilmember Beck.
First of all, I wanted to say thank you to Christopher. I have already sent my congratulations via email to him, but in that email, I said I knew that when I first met him that we probably would have to be saying goodbye to him sooner than we'd like to. But thankfully, he's just going down the street, so he'll still be a colleague that we can work with for the greater development of our region. Because I think that that'll be a wonderful gift, not just for Savoy, but also for us. So I'm glad that he will be a partner in that. So much congratulations to him and all the best to him and his family. And I know we'll be seeing him around in the community. So this isn't farewell. This is just good luck in your next stage. But I do want to talk a little bit about the food pantry issue. One of my inquiries with staff today was in regards to other pantries in the community, because I know there are others that have been set up in right-of-ways, and the equity of making sure that everybody's treated in the same fashion, and that we're not treating certain groups or certain people in one way and others in a different way. So that was one of my concerns. But jumping off of some of the things that Council Member Kyles had to say tonight is, I think that these are really hard decisions for staff to have to make oftentimes, because we do have many expectations when it comes to right-of-way and what we have that's allowable on the right-of-way and how we make right-of-ways happen in terms of, how do bus stops happen on right-of-ways? How do, how do we make sure that signage is appropriate on right-of-ways? Things like that that are actually dictated through our ordinance. And sometimes our ordinances are clunky and they don't do exactly what we want them to do. We want them to serve people and we want them to serve the best interests of everybody. And in this case, maybe this isn't the best way to serve everybody. Maybe we need to figure out another way that we can look at this issue of food insecurity. Clearly, food insecurity in general has been a big issue of mine. I've talked about it on council for a number of years now. But also, food access is clearly an issue right now for many people that it hasn't previously been an issue for. So, I think that's one of the reasons why we see more attention to it for across the community, but not only for people that we have traditionally not had access to food, which that shouldn't even be a thing. Traditionally not having access to food, that's crazy that we even say that. But I think that what we are looking at now is a broader community concern that we can capitalize on, and making some good solutions that perhaps, if that's not use of the right of way, maybe that's parlaying into some sort of community effort that we can work together. But as Councilmember Stock said, you know, maybe this is the time that we kind of look at how do we decide what's appropriate for right-of-way issues, and how do we go about that? And is there a better mechanism to decide what's beneficial for the whole community? And is there a better permitting process maybe that we could do, or a better access that we can do for right-of-way issues when it comes to all kinds of different issues? I mean, previously I had a group that wanted to do voter registration stations on the right-of-way. Well, they couldn't do voter registrations on the right-of-way because we couldn't do an agreement with them, because they didn't have a formalized group. There was no way to make an agreement. There was nobody to hold liability for that. And so it became this, you know, thing that we weren't able to do. So, this is not a new issue, but it's definitely an issue that I think now we're being challenged to face. So I think that we need to do that as a group, and we need to come together to make those to make that commitment. But I think that that's going to take one of us putting forward a study session to do that. And so I think we're going to have to decide how that's going to happen. All right, so that's all I have to say tonight about that. But I do hope that I do want to say thank you to the people who've contributed to the food pantries, you know, the various ones that are around the community that I'm aware of myself, and to the people that have taken it upon themselves to create those. I mean, clearly you're wanting to serve the community. You're wanting to create something that will help people in this really, really difficult time. And I think that we also want to do that as a city. At least I know I do as a city council member. And so I think that we can come to some sort of solution about this. So thank you for bringing your concerns to our attention, and hopefully we can serve the community better going forward.
Councilmember Brooks.
I also appreciate people who have done the food pantries and the pop-up pantries all across the community. I think those are really helpful. I do agree that we do have ordinances, and sometimes staff is put in a position where they enforce those. I think hindsight is also 2020, and I think if we'd had meetings with them before, maybe instead of a notice on a box, it would have been worthwhile to maybe have a phone call or an email or something to actually reach out to the person to say, hey, we just need to move that. And then hopefully the issue would have been rectified. So I always think there's ways that we can improve, and I think the communication piece on that front could have probably been a little bit better. And I also want to wish Christopher a lot of luck. It's been great getting to know you. It's been fun having you. I've never seen someone who's dressed up every single day, looking sharp every single day, with a really positive attitude all the time, and I'm definitely going to miss that. And I just wish you all the best. I know Savoy is so lucky to have you. Thanks.
Anyone else? You know, my comments are really along the same lines as the comments from the rest of council. I really want to recognize Councilmember Kyle's heartfelt comments that we are not at war. And, you know, we need to be better at communicating, probably on both sides, but particularly since we are government, we own that responsibility, and that's something we should be working hard at. I am very sympathetic to the staff that is in a position of, you know, we have ordinances on the books that we expect them to enforce. And if this was Costco on the right of way, trying to sign up their new members, or as I have seen, you know, at times on campus, it's the, you know, as students are moving in, the businesses are all over the sidewalks, creating, you know, hazards and making it hard to pass. We would want that enforced, and we'd be telling people that we have this ordinance in place and they have to comply. I think our staff is charged with being even-handed. And so if they're going to enforce the ordinance, they have to enforce the ordinance. What we have the opportunity as public officials and policymakers is to look at, is there a way to accommodate what Councilmember Gladney so wonderfully stated is sort of our heartfelt concerns and the community need. And, you know, I am convinced that we can figure it out in a way that maintains an accessible sidewalk. You know, we need people to be able to get their wheelchair or their walker or whatever it may be down our city right of way. So even a little bit of infringement on the sidewalk could cause problems for that. I am sure that we can figure this out. We are not at war. This is, you know, a good thing to be providing for people in a hard time. And, you know, we all can work together to do that. I also don't disagree. You know, Councilmember Beck raised the issue, but any one of us has that ability to, you know, circulate the study session request, and we need to be mindful of that. I think if we had realized back in July that this might be an ongoing issue, there would have been someone who would have circulated that so we could have that discussion. This all can't happen very quickly, and the response was rapid on both sides. I'm glad that they've found a place that complies with our current ordinance that gives us time to think about what the best steps are for moving forward. So with that, City Manager, did you have any comments?
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to announce, a member of our audience already mentioned it, but the police listening sessions on the future of policing will begin this week. To remind council members of the public, this is just the first step in an engagement process where the listening sessions are going to be in a format very similar to council meetings, on a Zoom format because of COVID restrictions. There are 5 of those, and then at the conclusion of that process, there will be additional study circle discussion groups that members of the public can register for to actually have more interactive discussion and a future date. The dates for the listening sessions that are coming up, the first one is this Thursday, September 24th from 6 to 8 p.m. Next Tuesday night is a 5th Tuesday. There is no city council meeting, so there will be a listening session on Tuesday, September 29th from 6 to 8 p.m. The next one will be Saturday, October 3rd from 1 to 3 p.m. There is a Friday, October 9th at 1 to 3 p.m. And then our study session on October 13th will be canceled to have a listening session on Tuesday, October 13th from 6 to 8 p.m. All of these will be posted as civic events to allow all the city council members to actively participate, but they will also be recorded so that people can view them on demand. At the conclusion of the whole process, staff will be summarizing comments, providing that to council, because we will have study sessions with the city council, because ultimately it is the council who provides direction to us on our city services. But at any time as well, members of the public who cannot attend any of these events are obviously welcome to engage with any member of the city council to share their suggestions or concerns, or also contact staff. And then I would be remiss as the city manager to not add and echo my kind of mixed emotions tonight as we say goodbye and good luck to Christopher Walton. It has been my privilege, and everybody in the city organization who has been able to work with him, they're privileged to have had him these last 2 years. He has contributed a great deal in a short amount of time. We are all very grateful that he is staying in the area, and I am proud to call him my colleague as a fellow village administrator. And I know that Christopher has a long and prosperous career in city management ahead of him. So thank you, Christopher. We wish you the best of luck. And that's it, Your Honor.
Thank you. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And we need a roll call.
Councilmember Brooks,
Yes.
Bruno,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Gladney,
Yes.
Kyles,
Yes.
Ianfetti,
Yes.
Stock,
Yes.
Beck,
Yes.
Mayor Finan.
Yes, we are adjourned. Thank you all.